Modern Warfare 3 is one of the most divisive Call of Duty games to have ever released, coming right off the heels of one of the most iconic games ever, Modern Warfare 2. It sparked a lot of debate. A lot of consumers believed it was just a DLC. But was it really, though? I find it wild that we have now experienced roughly the same process that we went through with the exact same titled games just 12 years later. This whole year we experienced Call of Duty Déjà Vu, where we have a new game called Modern Warfare 3 that can really just be seen as a patch or DLC, and arguably wouldn't have needed to exist if things had just worked out better for the previous title, Modern Warfare 2. Here for today's video, I wanted to take a deep dive into Modern Warfare 3 now that we've experienced the full year of it, and ask you all the question, was it actually a DLC? Why was the decision made to make this a standalone game? Was it actually an improvement and worth your time and money? Let's talk about it. The very first thing that I want to go ahead and clear up is that despite the fact of what we may have heard or what we want to believe, the reality is no. Activision and Call of Duty never confirmed that Modern Warfare 22 was going to be a 2-year Call of Duty game. While yes, it was rumored to be intended that way, as per Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, we never saw an actual confirmation post from Activision Call of Duty saying that that was going to be the plan. We never got the official confirmation of that. We just ran with the information we knew and that was it. So naturally, after hearing that a new standalone game was planned for 2023, it left a lot of us confused, especially hearing the rumors of getting Modern Warfare 2 remastered content. Later on though, Activision did confirm that there was going to be a new premium release in 2023. Personally, I think it would have been really nice given the whole carry forward integration of Modern Warfare 22 content from last year. Those who bought Modern Warfare 22 could have got a discount or something for Modern Warfare 3, but that didn't happen. Now, if that were to be the case though, then I think there would be a lot more leverage in leaning to the whole, yeah, this is just a DLC / paid expansion for the game. I know we can sit here and discuss endlessly, oh, this is how it should have been at launch, and they should have done this and that, and I don't like it because they did this or that, and all of that is completely fine. That kind of hindsight can be applied to all aspects of the game, and it's easy to imagine what we have now and think about it how it could have been there at launch. Unfortunately, some things just don't work out like that, and it's important to remember that going forward. It started off as just that though, a rumor of a premium paid expansion. If that were to be the case, what changed the course of action for Activision and Call of Duty? I believe the very short and very blunt answer to that is just simply Modern Warfare 22 and Warzone 2. It just did not live up to expectations at all. Despite Modern Warfare 22 last year making $1 billion in 10 days after launch, it would end up losing over 80% of the player base in the following months. I believe the initial 62% loss of players by February of 2023 is what caused the change of course, which ironically enough is when we started hearing the rumors and reports about Call of Duty 2023 being a standalone and not just the rumored premium paid expansion. This is complete speculation as we don't have the actual confirmation of this, but I believe the reason why they separated Modern Warfare 3 from Modern Warfare 2 last year was more than likely because they needed to. Modern Warfare 22 lost 80% of the player base, and they dropped the Warzone 2 tag in what, Season 4 of Modern Warfare 22? As much as we would have loved Modern Warfare 3 as a free add-on, or let alone giving the game at a discounted price for Modern Warfare 22 owners, they needed to separate the identity, literally, by having Modern Warfare 3 be its own separate game. Assuming that probably, many of the 80% of players that left wouldn't have even returned or tried Modern Warfare 3 if it was just an add-on. Personally, I believe that to be true, or at least hold a lot of weight to the matter, because all throughout the course of the year, I saw countless comments from people saying things like, oh, I'm not even going to bother with Modern Warfare 3 because of Modern Warfare 22. I got no interest. And I can almost guarantee there are some of you watching this video that felt or still feel the exact same way, that you weren't going to care about Modern Warfare 3 because of what happened with Modern Warfare 22 last year, being completely hesitant to try this game because of what you may have experienced last year. The name Modern Warfare 2 was just completely tarnished. While I wish it were the case in a perfect world that Modern Warfare 3 really was just an update to the game, I completely understand the decision and why the decision was made to have it be a standalone game. They simply had to do it. To again be completely blunt about this, I do understand the frustration because Modern Warfare 3 here really did not need to be its own game. Modern Warfare 3 didn't need to exist in this way for that matter if Infinity Ward had listened to the player feedback over all of the years since Modern Warfare 2019. Think about it. A vast majority of the main criticisms in Modern Warfare 22 were fixed in Modern Warfare 3. I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes from. Modern Warfare 22 could have been what we have here in Modern Warfare 3, and we wouldn't need to be in this situation. I believe the reasons as to why so many people are like, oh, it's just a DLC, who cares, is because we really should not have had to buy a new game to experience the game that we should have had last year, or even arguably with Modern Warfare 2019. It's a mix of we shouldn't have had to buy a new game to experience what we've been wanting for all of these years. Partially number two as well, we all got burned by Modern Warfare 22. It was not what we expected. And number 3, I feel like it ties into a lot of burnout, because this again was the first direct sequel that we had in Call of Duty. It was the first time of having a direct sequel in back-to-back years, so if you weren't a fan of Modern Warfare 22, chances were, again, you weren't going to care about Modern Warfare 3, feeling the burnout, as compared to the original Modern Warfare trilogy, where from 2007 to 2011, 2012, we went from Call of Duty 4 to World at War, to Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1, Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 2. Every single year, every other year, we had a completely fresh experience. Now again, do keep this in mind, the literal exact same criticism that we have for the new Modern Warfare 3 is the exact same of what we had for the original. It's just a $60 upgrade, why should I have to buy this? Now I could go on about this, it is mostly the exact same situation from the OG MW2 to MW3. The OG MW2 was broken as we know, but it didn't get updated, not because Infinity Ward didn't want to, but they couldn't update it given half of the studio leaving with that whole Activision fallout. So Modern Warfare 3 coming out in 2011 felt like the fix for it, and it's literally the exact same situation that the current MW3 is in. The current Modern Warfare 3 is the fix and upgrade for Modern Warfare 22, but this time around, Infinity Ward doubled down and stuck to their guns of their gameplay design, and a lot of the Call of Duty community wasn't happy with it. I understand that it's easy to view Modern Warfare 3 as just a $70 DLC in that regard, because it really all could have been different had Infinity Ward listened to and implemented player feedback. The question still begs though, is it actually a DLC? Well, clearly it is. Clearly it's a DLC because it's labeled as such. It's labeled as a DLC of COD HQ. Haha. Look, I know a lot of people don't like COD HQ and prefer Call of Duty just go back to their separate EXEs and such. COD HQ's been very frustrating, but I understand its purpose though. It's the launching point of every Call of Duty now on this unified engine. It makes going from one experience to another much more seamless, and especially given the Warzone integrations, it makes everything much easier. Since Black Ops 6 is a part of the COD HQ, does that mean it's a DLC too? No, of course it isn't. The exact same thing goes for Modern Warfare 3. I don't really mean to be that guy and be like, well, actually, it's not a DLC because that would require you to own Modern Warfare 2 to get access to all of the new content within Modern Warfare 3, and that's not the case. Which it truly isn't. Yes, there is carry forward, but if anything, you actually got a much better deal for what it's worth in getting Modern Warfare 2 content within Modern Warfare 3. If you didn't play Modern Warfare 22 last year, you got 2 games worth of new guns and a handful of maps for Modern Warfare 22, the 16 Modern Warfare 2 remastered maps for multiplayer, a new campaign, and zombies mode. Carry forward, ironically enough, didn't help with the whole, oh, it's just a DLC situation. The big topic of Modern Warfare 2 Remastered is its own section in the video because there's so much to talk about regarding that, but in short, I do think a lot of people were upset receiving the Modern Warfare 2 Remastered maps on launch in a new game without getting the actual remaster, which is completely fair, and believe me, I still want that Modern Warfare 2 Remaster, so I completely get it. However, I firmly believe that the 16 Modern Warfare 2 Remastered maps that we got was actually the best case scenario for getting some form of Modern Warfare 2 Remastered. There's a whole lot that I'm going to be talking about later on in the video with that, so be sure to check out the timestamps below. Sledgehammer had an uphill battle to fight all year long with Modern Warfare 3. The rumored time of development for this game was 16 months, similar to that of Call of Duty Vanguard. Not many people were fans of Call of Duty Vanguard, and most would say that it's definitely one of the worst games in the franchise. With that being said, again, most COD fans were not very thrilled with the idea of Sledgehammer leading another Call of Duty title so soon. I did want to talk a little bit more about carry forward. Ironically enough, again, it didn't help the whole it's just a DLC notion, but I get both sides of it. On one hand, it's a really good thing that everything you did and unlocked in Modern Warfare 2 last year is carried into Modern Warfare 3 for you to use. For me personally, the biggest thing was using the intervention on Modern Warfare 2 Remastered maps. That was already one of the biggest selling points for me. On the flip side, however, bringing all of the Modern Warfare 22 weapons and some of the maps over makes it feel more of a DLC expansion. I think that carry forward is a good idea in theory. It's good that the things that we did and unlocked are in the follow-up game, because as the time goes on, it shows your longevity and achievements in the previous games. You could be running around with Bowing Blossoms from Modern Warfare 2 Season 2, time-exclusive rewards, and things like that. There's a level of exclusivity and the preposterous boast, for lack of a better term. I think the best way to do carry forward going into the future would be things like camos and personalization options to carry from game to game. Things like your mastery camos, event rewards, calling cards, emblems, things like that. The game will begin to feel really bloated after a certain point in time if we constantly see the previous game's maps and weapons carry forward, especially if it continues into games like presumably Modern Warfare 4 or 5, whatever we get to. I think it's why we're seeing more of a focus for Warzone, as that's more of a universal Call of Duty experience now. If it were continuing in the paid multiplayer experience, it would just feel more like an expansion. I do find it funny and a little ironic that one of the biggest things the Call of Duty community has been wanting for such a long time became one of the pillars for the whole it's just a DLC argument. But how does this all relate into Modern Warfare 3's identity? We have a game called Modern Warfare 3 that launched and finished with no original Modern Warfare 3 throwbacks, but the Modern Warfare 2 Remastered maps instead. This game was released as a premium title despite being a direct sequel in back-to-back years. Is it really going to be identified with just being Modern Warfare 22's patch and update? What would Sledgehammer have to do to really set Modern Warfare 3 apart? Given the Warzone era for Call of Duty being pretty divisive on its own, where the previous titles of Vanguard and Modern Warfare 2 are regarded as two of the worst games in the franchise, the bar for Modern Warfare 3 was incredibly low, but it had all the potential in the world. Sledgehammer really had their work cut out for them, to say the least. Let's see how they handled it. Modern Warfare 3 had officially launched on November 10th, 2023, and within 2 weeks had set player retention and engagement records despite sales being roughly 40% lower. To be honest, Modern Warfare Zombies wasn't a surprise considering that Zombies is the staple third game mode in Call of Duty. I'm very sorry, Spec Ops fans, but Zombies really just is the best third game mode in Call of Duty. It's not a surprise that a lot of people spend a lot of time in Zombies. Time spent in the campaign can be boiled down to the open combat missions and trying things out. The multiplayer, however, more hours per player overall than Modern Warfare 2019 and Modern Warfare 22, also doesn't come as a surprise because, in my opinion, Modern Warfare 3 is the far better multiplayer experience across the board. Of course, that's subject to debate and we'll get into that, but it is damning to think about how more people bought Modern Warfare 22 but didn't play it as much. The exact same thing goes for Modern Warfare 2019. I think a lot of people tend to forget how bad Modern Warfare 2019's multiplayer was received before Warzone came out. According to Steam charts, Modern Warfare 22 lost 84% of its players in retention by April of 2023, 6 months after the release of the game. With Modern Warfare 3, they only just lost about 30% of the players in retention in that 6-month window of November release to April of 2024. As a matter of fact, Modern Warfare 3's iteration managed to retain more players later into the year. Now yes, this is just Steam charts as the only way to account for player numbers, retention, and engagement, as well as considering that Call of Duty on Steam is tracking every aspect of Modern Warfare 22 and 23, so campaign, multiplayer, zombies, Warzone, you name it. Although I do believe it is fair to say we could gauge similar trends on other platforms. It's all worth noting though. Now let's start the multiplayer discussion by establishing Infinity Ward's decisions and/or lack thereof to make changes to their own game in Modern Warfare 22, and yet how they influenced Modern Warfare 3. Modern Warfare 3 was reportedly supposed to have Classic Prestige, the Pick 10 system, and much more, but Infinity Ward refused, and that was all cut from the game. Matter of fact, we learned that over the course of the year, Infinity Ward was making a lot of the decisions as to what was going on with Modern Warfare 3, which again begs the question, why are they so heavily involved? And if they really were that involved, why didn't they just make those changes to Modern Warfare 22 when we gave them the feedback for it in the beta and over the course of the year? If it's true, that would mean they were okay with having red dots, dead silence, change to the movement, and so much more in Modern Warfare 3, but not Modern Warfare 22. It still just doesn't make sense as to why they seemingly had this much control over a game that isn't theirs. I don't get it at all. I still don't get why we even removed some of those core features from multiplayer to begin with, but let's move on. I think that current Call of Duty offers a lot with the whole gunsmith, but sometimes less is more. There's an overabundance of attachments in the game that wouldn't surprise me if a vast majority of players aren't using them. I think I counted upwards of 81 different optics for the Honey Badger alone. That is a bit excessive. I think that Call of Duty could benefit from toning that down. Not even with just optics, but for all attachments really. We don't need 80 different variants of such minimal differences. We really only need a few that give a significant enough of a trade-off, similar to the older Call of Duties. That will do the trick. In a way to slim it down would have been through Pick 10, I believe. Less is more in that regard. I also feel that some of the gloves and boots could have been potentially combined together. Say for example combining the Ordnance gloves with Scavenger, Commando gloves with Assault, Quick Grip with Marksman, tactical pads with the Stalker boots, or my personal favorite, the all-terrain boots with Reinforced boots. Things like that are always going to be up to interpretation and of course execution and testing, but the idea of it being again that we could focus more on making limited options more impactful, instead of spreading out little pros and benefits. Same thing could be applied to field upgrades to an extent. I still think we need to bring the tac insert back to being a piece of tactical equipment instead of being a field upgrade. Would also help a lot if the faction logos were above them, especially if the tac insert is just a red flare. Just please let me spawn where I want to without this 5-second delay. Discussing the core fundamentals, weapons and their balance, the perks, maps, spawns, movement, the elements of overall flow and how it all comes together in a multiplayer match, all were improved upon in Modern Warfare 3. To me, it's unsurprising how much better the game feels to play when all of these factors aren't working against you. Coming off of Modern Warfare 22, we no longer have charging perks, you just immediately have them. I think the way that they revamped the perk system and changed it into gear slots was a unique change. Perks were changed up to fit for vests, boots, and gear slots, a new way to adjust a core mechanic and foundation of the multiplayer, and it worked decently well. I still do think it would have been a really cool idea if our operators reflected the perks that we were running very similarly to Black Ops 1, but more on that later. EOD and TAC mask seem to work a little better for the most part. I still think it could benefit from being on a similar level to Black Ops 2, mostly in not having this much of a shell shock effect. Having some form of ninja, covert sneakers back in the game was such a game changer. It was so nice, especially in Search and Destroy, feeling like I could actually move. The thing with having something like ninja or dead silence in a game is so crucial for balance, as we've seen in previous titles. No dead silence and it forces people to not move, and it trains them to rely on their hearing more than anything else. Without it, we just hyperfixate on that one sense, hearing. With it being in the game, it forces players to focus on more senses, awareness, general map knowledge, things that truly used to defy the skill gap in Call of Duty rather than just, oh boy, if I sit here and don't move, I'll surely hear the enemy sooner or later. There has always been a significant trade-off in balance to having dead silence and ninja in the game, whether it's something like Sit Rep Pro, awareness, or bone conductor in this game. There will always be a trade-off, and like I've been saying since Modern Warfare 2019, I feel that without having something like covert sneakers in the game, it severely hinders the skill gap in a negative way. It slows the game down, along with the overall sense of awareness and map knowledge. Having it back in the game is a staple of Call of Duty multiplayer, and it should continue to be there. Speaking of things that should continue to be there in Call of Duty, red dots on the minimap. It is again completely unsurprising how much better multiplayer matches feel and flow when you know where people are on the map. It's much more responsive, the information is much more direct when people are firing unsuppressed weapons. And once again, since 2007, if you want to stay off the radar, use a suppressor. It's always been that simple of a balance. If you want to stay off the radar, use a suppressor. It shouldn't always be a complete guess on where the enemies are on the map. Having the general knowledge of where enemies are leads to increased flow and movement around the map. When someone does run a suppressor, then it forces you to rely on map knowledge and game sense of, where did those shots come from? Where could they have gone? It's a good balance and learning curve instead of doubling down on the guessing game. It's wild to me that I even have to explain how important having red dots on the minimap is for a game like Call of Duty, but given the recent experiences that we had, I just again, it can't help but reiterate how important that information is in a game like Call of Duty.
Your fucking report at Rxqe. Fucking piece of shit.
Kirk, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you, bro. I'm gonna need you to look at that upper left-hand corner.
Man, don't fucking lie, man. See fucking replays,
There is a radar. It shows you where people are shooting.
I really enjoyed the feel of the weapons in Modern Warfare 3. They felt good to use. I love the fact that reload canceling came back because it's a little piece to the puzzle when it comes to the skill gap of reaction and timing. Instead of having to fully commit to the reload at the wrong time and being in a situation like, well, I'm screwed, I was still able to get the jump and keep myself alive. The addition of aftermarket parts was genuinely one of the greatest things about the weapons in this game. Every single week you had something new to grind for, and it gave so many options for variety. The TTK was very solid despite the heart attacks of, oh my god, 150 HP? Oh no, you have to put 1 or 2 more shots into someone for them to go down. Oh no, the horror. I think it's perfectly fine to have a preference of time to kill in Call of Duty, whether faster or a little bit slower, but let's not sit here and pretend like Modern Warfare 3 wasn't anything that was drastically different to what we've seen in the past. There are a ton of weapons that still absolutely shred in this game, with plenty of variety across the board. The 150 HP in Modern Warfare 3 feels more lethal than, say, Black Ops 4 or Cold War that also have 150 HP. The balance of weapons matter more than whatever the numerical value of the HP is. The fire rate and hit point damage multipliers across a variety of weapons feel very well done. Slower firing weapons hit harder with less shots, and faster firing weapons deal slightly less damage, but they add up very quick when you're hitting those quick, consistent shots. Now, of course, I've had plenty of moments in this game where I'm like, wow, I really should have got that guy. To which I can just say, it's a skill issue on my part and just needed to hit another shot. The connection plays a good part in it too. Of course, when you're on a better connection, the weapons will always feel more responsive. This was such a hot topic of debate and discussion, especially at the launch of the game, and at the time, even still now, I can't wrap my head around what the complaints are about the TTK. There is no way this is considered slow. There's so many weapons that absolutely shred in this game, and the way that you can build them to have like near minimal recoil on them, it's so straightforward. It's so easy. There's no way this is slow. If you seriously believe the TTK in this game is too slow, I think it's time to look in the mirror. Overall, I would say that a lot of the maps in Modern Warfare 3 serviced all weapon classes very well. We can attest some of that to the original Modern Warfare 2 maps and their design, of course, but you never felt too out of place depending on the weapon you decided to run for a match. Of course, every Call of Duty is going to have its meta weapons, like the ACR, for example, in this game, but I feel that this year we saw a good amount of weapon variety. At least more than last year, where you felt like you were up against the M4, TAC-56, Vaznev, and the AK-74U all year long. The balance felt pretty solid despite the meta weapons. Nothing truly felt so out of place that you were at a genuine disadvantage, and that's a good thing because of all of the weapons and their balance fitting well within the sandbox. Sledgehammer also did a wonderful thing and cleaned up a ton of the visual recoil and distractions with the Modern Warfare 22 weapons in Season 3. Even later in Season 6, they buffed a ton of the Modern Warfare 22 weapons, making them a lot more competitive and balanced with everything. I think that was actually a really good, major, beneficial part to the Season 6 update because now you don't have to go back to Modern Warfare 22 to experience the better feeling Modern Warfare 22 weapons. They're pretty well balanced now, especially with the Season 6 update. The visual clutter is again significantly tuned down, and they even buffed the Orion camo. If you had to choose between going back to Modern Warfare 2 or Modern Warfare 3 down the line, Modern Warfare 3, in my opinion, would be the better option as they cleaned up so much of what we wanted from Modern Warfare 2 in the first place. Sledge did a lot of what we wanted Infinity Ward to do. It is the far better multiplayer across the board in my honest opinion. One final note I would like to mention about the weapons real quick are the snipers. As someone who loves to snipe in Call of Duty multiplayer, at the time of writing this I have nearly 100,000 kills just from sniping alone. It was genuinely so much fun all year long. Sledgehammer gave us one of the best new snipers in Call of Duty with the XRK Stalker, an incredible version of the Morse from Advanced Warfare, and one of my favorite quality of life improvements to the game wasn't just giving us a 5-second kill feedback, but getting rid of that tac sprint animation while rechambering. I cannot thank you enough for that, Sledge. Speaking of tac sprint, the movement buffs were a welcome change, for most players anyway, especially after Modern Warfare 22. I feel that most COD players nowadays prefer, or at least have gotten very used to and become reliant on, tac sprinting and slide canceling. As someone who's been playing since 2007, I'm used to all the forms of movement we had in the franchise, and one thing that I really did enjoy a lot about Modern Warfare 3 here was the addition of the all-terrain boots. When you had the all-terrain boots on, they removed tac sprint entirely, but gave you an overall movement speed boost, similar to lightweight in the OG MWIII and older Call of Duties. It felt like you were playing old Call of Duty again, and it was lovely. If you don't like the feel of tac sprint, this was a great addition to the game, and is something that I feel that Call of Duties going into the future, especially Black Ops 6, for example, could benefit from. You could argue that a majority of the maps in the game, both Modern Warfare 3 and Black Ops 6 in this case, feel like they don't even need tac sprinting due to the size of the maps. Of course, Modern Warfare 3 had all 16 of the original Modern Warfare 2 maps, so sure, maps like Derail and Wasteland could benefit from it, but most of the other maps really didn't even need it. It certainly changed the way a lot of the OG MW2 maps played, for better and for worse in some cases, but more on that later. Speaking of the maps, not even just the remasters, but the new original maps that we got throughout the course of the seasons, in my opinion, are genuinely some of the greatest Call of Duty maps we've ever had added to a game. Maps like Greece, Departures, Vista, Six Star, Paris, Tokyo are all phenomenal for 6v6 and 10v10. Even all of the smaller maps like Meat, Stash House, Emergency, Bait, and Yard are so fun and chaotic. Even the remake of Das Haus is amazing. I love the setting change to a brighter high-rise building under construction. I say high-rise because the actual high-rise map can be seen off in the distance, but anyways. There was really only one map that I didn't care too much for, and that was Tanked, but even so still, it plays so well in 10v10, especially for Hardpoint. I spent most of the year playing 10v10 as I prefer the more populated Respawn multiplayer, but the feeling of 6v6 Hardpoint, the way rotations and flow worked on both the new original maps and the Modern Warfare 2 Remastered maps was executed pretty well. I also absolutely adored the feeling of playing Search and Destroy again on the classic MW2 maps. I felt like I was a kid again.
No way!
Nice.
No fucking nice. Shot.
Son, Enrique, guys, tamaño. Look at this. Enrique! Ay, Dios mío, what about all?
One of my favorite maps and modes from this game was Estate Hardpoint. Now, before I get flamed for this, as per usual, I've been saying this since the beta. Stop sleeping on Estate Hardpoint. It is seriously one of the best maps and modes for Respawn multiplayer, and no one believes me. Estate is a perfect example of an old Modern Warfare 2 map that's pretty unpopular for the most part, but it works so well and flows so well with a new game mode like Hardpoint when played on it. The rotations around the map, the way that spawns worked on it, where if you spawn on one side of a hardpoint, the enemy will be across on the other point, made it one of the best feeling, flowing, and predictable maps and modes in the game. You can easily drop 50 to 70 kills on this map if you know where you're going. In the original Modern Warfare 2, Estate was a very middle-of-the-road map depending on the game mode that you were playing it on. I absolutely adored it for Search and Destroy, but the feeling of Hardpoint on this map in MW3, I absolutely loved it. Spawns are always going to be a key aspect to the Call of Duty multiplayer experience. I would say that overall, the experience of Respawn multiplayer in Modern Warfare 3 was much better than the previous Modern Warfare games. For game modes like Hardpoint and Domination, I felt like I rarely had spawns that kept me further away from the action. Still safe spawns mostly, but not so far out that I'm spending more time running back into the fight than actively engaging in it. One of the best things about Modern Warfare 3 was the removal of the slam cam, as the developers called it. The camera that would swoop in on you where you would spawn. Very glad that that was gone. I again wish they could have changed that with the tactical insertions and gotten rid of that 5-second respawn delay, but it had its moments of use. Hardpoint has become the best respawn game mode in Call of Duty since Modern Warfare 2019, as it actually encourages movement around the map, and there are moments of spawn control resemblance that was once a thing in Domination. Domination isn't terrible in this game, and overall the spawns did get a lot of work over the course of the year, but the spawn logic remnants of the previous games, the squad spawning, lack of map control, especially when you have control of the two flags on the map, which leads to flipping, are still there. Ironically enough, Team Deathmatch and Kill Confirmed are the game modes now that have the stickiest spawns, those reminiscent of how old Call of Duty used to work to an extent, where you would really have to push into the spawns to cause a flip. A vast majority of the new maps in the game are quite solid for your typical respawn game modes of TDM, KC, Dom, and Hardpoint. Sure, some maps will always play better than others for some game modes, like for example, I would much rather play something like Tanked Hardpoint over Tanked Kill Confirmed, but mostly in Modern Warfare 3, it was so rare where I would get a map in mode where I'm like, oh, we got this? Yeah, we're backing out. I will say though, two of the worst maps in this game were Derail and Invasion, especially for Kill Confirmed. Derail is a little self-explanatory, it's a huge map, and despite map control of having teammates in mid, you're always spawning in the back of the map. Hardpoint was pretty bearable though, except when the point rotates and then you're 100 meters away. Invasion was truly one of the worst maps in the game for Kill Confirmed and for Domination, especially if you were on the Army Ranger side of the map. You would constantly, no matter what almost, spawn in the safest back corner of the palace at C flag, rarely by the staircase at C, or even the literal safer spawn in the building, or even in the construction yard as you would in the OG MW2. It was just consistently that one spot in the palace. Even one of the most beloved maps, Terminal, still had its problems. Terminal KC was rough. Terminal spawns for TDM, KC, and Domination have an insanely sticky spawn in the security. Instead of spawning in or around Dreams when you're getting pushed back at A flag, you spawn further back in the security, or near the back of the plane. When it comes to Terminal, it feels like the spawn and flow is much more straight-lined, instead of being diagonal like it was in the OG MW2 and OG MW3. I could sit here and nitpick the spawns, especially on the MW2 maps, all day, but the point is, this new spawn system incorporated from Modern Warfare 2019 has flipped the switch where TDM and KC have the stickier spawns, yet the objective game modes where you would expect them to, like Domination, doesn't have it. Hardpoint is the best balance currently, as you can still move around the map and yet still expect some predictability. Sledge were working on this throughout the course of the year. I don't know exactly how this new spawn logic and system were implemented on a fundamental coding level. I do think that having the original MW2 spawn system would have been really good if that were a possibility. If say Sledge and the devs had spent a couple of days playing a lot of MW2 lands with each other to really see how the maps and modes felt and given us something similar to that, I think that would have been cool. But I also realize that it's probably not as straightforward as simply copying and pasting code and logic from IW4 to the new unified Call of Duty engine, but a man can dream though. I still think that Call of Duty multiplayer benefits and works so much more from having spawns that tie more into map control rather than what's the safest possible spot. I get we don't want to have shooting fish in a barrel kind of spawn trapping, but there needs to be more emphasis on modes like Domination, or in Team Deathmatch and Kill Confirmed. I shouldn't be spawning at the back of the map in Derail when a majority of my team has control in mid. I want to spawn closer to the action. I want it to feel like old Call of Duty again, where there's at least some form of map control in all game modes. That's how it was, even in some of the more unpopular maps in the old games like Block and Overgrown. Notice how here on Block we have control of B and C flag, and instead of dying and spawning in the back of the pool at C flag, I spawn right here in the middle building right across from B flag. Or even here in this 4v4 Overgrown match on MW2, I'm spawning directly across from where the enemies are in the barn. Granted, still behind this little house for cover, but notice how I'm not spawning all the way at the back gas station? It's things like that. Even on what some would consider to be the worst maps in Call of Duty, the older games still actively spawned you closer to the action. This is what I miss about the old spawn system. I do understand again that the devs don't want this kind of thing to happen, where you spawn and immediately get wallbanged, but notice how I stayed in the area of where we were getting trapped, and it wasn't until the 5th death in the area that they spawned me a little bit out of the way. Not completely flipping and throwing me at the back of the plane, but just enough to get out of the way to get a more natural rotation out of Terminal A trap. It seems like a new COD, especially since Modern Warfare 2019, I would have died twice in the trap and then immediately thrown to the other side of the map. Map control is very important. Yes, being on the receiving end of the spawn trapping is frustrating, but there are ways to rotate out without drastically rupturing the flow. Another topic of discussion when it comes to the spawns in Modern Warfare 3 were revenge spawns, and how, oh, it really feels like they cranked up the possibility of that. While yes, there were plenty of moments where revenge spawns went crazy and I spawned so close to the enemy that just killed me, it's been a thing in Call of Duty for a very long time, time, even going back to the classic games. It does happen, and yes, it can be frustrating to die to, but honestly, it was more of a surprising rarity than something that consistently happened for it to be a major annoyance, at least for me personally. On the topic of things that do annoy me a little bit, there are a few things to address, like of course, skill-based matchmaking. I feel as if we're beating the dead horse on this topic, but honestly at this rate, the way that I go about it, and would encourage you to do so as well, is by playing in a party. Unlike last year, I spent a ton of time in Modern Warfare 3 playing with friends and viewers on my live streams. The varying KDs made lobbies feel pretty normal again. Some lobbies were super sweaty where we would get destroyed, and others where we completely dominated. Another way I try to avoid the skill-based matchmaking is by not using lethal kill streaks. Aside the kills that I would get when I dropped a few nukes in this game, I have maybe 50 kills with them. I've been saying this since Modern Warfare 2019, but I genuinely don't think getting those extra kills, and especially the score, given it goes off your score per minute and recent performance, it's not worth it anymore. With over 30 days worth of playtime in the multiplayer alone, over 150,000 kills and a 1.2 KD, positive win-loss, I really try to not let the skill-based matchmaking get to me as much. SBMM is still an annoyance, especially on top of everything else that goes on with the game. I still genuinely do believe that XDefiant's style of no skill-based matchmaking in public matches is what we should go back to. XDefiant has made matchmaking feel normal again, and it's very refreshing. I want Call of Duty to return to that, where there's less of a focus on skill-based matchmaking, but more on ping and team balance. SBMM should only be in ranked, and the exact same thing that I've been saying for 5 years at this rate, going back to my Modern Warfare 2019 review, is how XDefiant handled their welcome playlist, where new players can get involved with the game and not get punched in the mouth over and over and over again, because there is skill based in that specific playlist. By the point in time you hit level 25 in XDefiant, you've put in enough time to understand how the game is played, and the exact same thing can be applied to Call of Duty, and I wish it would. I think that the combination of skill-based matchmaking and at times with the insane packet burst and desync have made the game extremely frustrating at times. Online gaming will almost always have lag spikes, but I feel like it's been really rough in Call of Duty as of late with the packet bursts. Now, Call of Duty did release the white papers over the year discussing skill-based matchmaking and packet burst. Packet burst basically boil down to the overall connection, your internet speed, and how it connects to the Activision servers. There were plenty of times throughout playing the game over the course of the year where my lobbies were filled with little packet burst spikes, and it again is very frustrating to deal with. Thankfully, it's rarely ever been this bad where it looks like the lobby is just completely lagging out. The SBMM white papers were very interesting, as we were shown that while skill-based matchmaking was disabled, the brackets of lower skilled players saw a drop in retention by less than 2%. The test was conducted on 50% of Northern American players, where over a 2-week span, only less than 2% of the lower skilled players did not get back on the game, while the players in the higher brackets with higher KDs stayed on the game much longer. The reality of the situation is basically what we've known since skill-based was really ramped up in Modern Warfare 2019, and that is, it is there to protect the lower skilled players to keep them playing the game. I'm gonna sound like such an old man in saying this, but as the COD boomer that was once a kid with that 0.6 KD, the new players and the kids nowadays just don't have the drive to actually get better at the game. What a lot of us did back in the early days of Call of Duty was study kill cams, especially from those players that were kicking our ass in game, and we would see what they were doing and how they played and tried to replicate it. We would befriend the better players and learn from them, and as time went on, we became the players to drop more kill streaks and top the lobbies. There was genuine progression. The problem with skill-based matchmaking nowadays is that it doesn't allow for that to happen, and some new players don't have that instant gratification, which turns them away from the game. Skill-based matchmaking is there to give them that gratification. The argument also turns into, oh, if all the bad players leave, then every lobby is going to be sweaty. The thing is, if it's just the average to above average players that are left, and you're an above average player, you're still going to be better than most players on the game. The point is, there's almost no sense of natural progression in the game anymore, and we're simply in a different time. Skill-based matchmaking is here to stay for the foreseeable future, and we'll see how it gets handled in Black Ops 6, and that is if they decide to conduct more tests. There also is EOMM, or the engagement optimized matchmaking topic, and for someone who does clearly engage a lot with Call of Duty, it doesn't surprise me that I play against players who also spend a lot of time on the game. I will say this, though, speaking from personal experience, and just to debunk this, but of the few bundles that I got this year, I don't think there was ever a time where I was thrown into lobbies immediately after buying a bundle, where I would be dropping nukes left and right. It definitely wasn't a drastically noticeable experience for me in that regard. I usually just draw to skill-based matchmaking and recent match performance. Speaking of things that weren't drastically notable, I genuinely don't think I came across a cheater in the regular multiplayer. I didn't have spin botters or anything crazy like that, nothing really comes to mind. I will take a lot of people's words in saying that, especially in ranked modes for multiplayer and Warzone have been pretty bad to my understanding. I think I only encountered a cheater once in Warzone whose name, ironically enough, had HVH in it. The Ricochet and Shadowban systems will hopefully always be a work in progress to keep the games clean. We'll just have to see how that goes. Asides EOMM and packet bursting, one of the somewhat divisive topics of Modern Warfare 3 was the Armory unlock system. I think that the Armory unlock system is good in theory, and works better later on down the line getting into the post-launch content of the game. Most Armory unlocks would require you to complete 3 to 5 daily challenges to unlock a new item in the game, which again in theory is fine as you have 9 daily challenges that can go towards Armory unlocks, 3 daily challenges in MP, Zombies, and Warzone, and you would also get additional daily challenge completions by winning games in multiplayer. It encourages players to complete their daily challenges in all aspects of the game and get rewarded for doing so. For someone like me though who plays the game every single day, naturally I ended up unlocking everything without even really trying. And also at the same time, I ended up getting fried by Sledgehammer on the timeline for this. However, the huge problem with the Armory unlocks, especially at the launch of the game, was the fact that the things that you would usually get by simply ranking up, as in your weapons, perks, equipment, kill streaks, field upgrades, attachments, you name it, were all locked behind them instead of them being unlocked by ranking up as you would expect in every other Call of Duty game. Usually when you level up from 1 to 55, you unlock new things across the board at varying levels. Another part of the problem is that some Armory unlocks would require you to use a locked item to complete a daily challenge. For example, you can have a daily challenge like flashbang and kill 3 enemies, but oh no, the flashbang is locked behind an Armory unlock? Instead of just getting it at level 4 or something when I unlock create a class? Why do I have to use a locked item to complete a daily challenge that's preventing me from progressing in the game? Now, to be fair, there were some cases where the thing that you needed was on a default class and you could have just used that instead, but the problem lies in the fact that, again, they were forcing you to jump through more hoops for progression and making the unlock system worse in doing so. Yes, it's giving you the choice to unlock what you want when you want, but I think that Call of Duty Ghosts did that a little bit better with the squad point system. I do think where Armory unlocks can work very well again is within the post-launch support of the game. Say, for example, you don't play for a season, and there's a new gun that you want to unlock. So let's say, for example, the Rxqe Stalker. Yeah, sure, just go ahead, complete 3 daily challenges and bam, new weapon unlocked. For post-launch support or even cosmetic things like calling cards, emblems, camos even for example, are cool to have in the Armory unlocks because once you've unlocked everything, you have some incentive to go get some extra stuff. In short, the problem was they arbitrarily gatekept progression and forced you to play the game a certain way to progress within it. Locking things in the Armory unlock system that you would typically unlock via hitting a certain rank was the issue, or even especially weapon attachments that you would again expect to unlock by maxing out your weapon. Overall, I do think that Armory unlocks are a great idea on paper, they could just be better executed is all. Keep the typical rank unlocks and weapon attachments unlocked in the traditional sense by rank and leveling weapons respectively, but have things like aftermarket parts and new content within the Armory unlocks and weekly challenges. Besides that, one of my more personal gripes with Call of Duty nowadays are the lack of factions in multiplayer. I will say I do love what Sledgehammer is doing this year with actually giving us factions in the multiplayer again, more so akin to what we had again in Cold War. You still have Spec Crew and Cortac, but you have the classic MW2 factions within them, and I absolutely adored this. I do think that having the OG Spetsnaz emblem was better than the new one, but that's probably the nostalgia talking. What I would have loved is if they brought back the OG voice announcing for the game.
Team Deathmatch. The mission is simple. Kill them all.
Team Deathmatch. Take no prisoners, comrades.
I already run the OG Ghost Skin and Shadow Company operators. I've got the classic MW2 music pack. I truly do love the original Modern Warfare 2, if it wasn't obvious enough. I think that having the OG voice announcers would have been the cherry on top, but it is what it is. What I will say about the factions though is this. I still do wish we had the option to disable custom operators and have them replaced with the traditional factions for player models. This video by MWIII perfectly encapsulates my feelings towards factions in the multiplayer. I understand that operators are a selling point and especially are a charm and do make more sense in Warzone, but when it comes to the campaign, multiplayer, and spec ops of the OG Modern Warfares and Call of Duties, you get a sense of grounding and connection. Everything made sense and didn't feel out of place. Each game had its own charm and unique identity through its representation of locations and factions. I miss having factions and soldiers that look and feel like they belong there. In Black Ops 1, you had all these different factions with different environmental looks, and like I mentioned earlier with the perks, you would have a different look depending on the perks you ran. The voice acting too of the factions again made it feel so much more immersive. Again, I do understand the appeal of the operator system and having celebrities in the game, things like crossovers from The Boys and The Walking Dead combat are pretty cool, but it just doesn't feel like Call of Duty. It feels pretty off-putting getting killed by 21 Savage with a lightsaber, and also in this clip, I'm shooting at an enemy Gundam while my Teletubby teammate runs by and I genuinely forget who's on my team. It causes confusion more often than I would like to admit. There was something so special about the charm and identity of the older Call of Duties. Even with the old multiplayer HUDs, you would have the faction logo at the lower left, the XP bar at the bottom. I miss that in this style of HUD so much. The last time we truly had something like this was in Modern Warfare Remastered back in 2016. Speaking of which, using MWR as a reference here, I feel like they could base more operators like this, where you can have different characters, yet their heads and faces fit in different faction uniforms. If we can't get the default operators back, I think this would be a phenomenal alternative. A toggleable option where you can still have the custom character just in the faction uniform. Something like that would be really nice to have again in my opinion. And I think it hit a little harder this year because Modern Warfare 3 is the closest thing we have to Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, and I would have absolutely loved to have been able to experience that feeling again. Also, I just really want Shadow Company to be an actual faction in a Modern Warfare multiplayer. Please, it is criminal how they haven't had their own faction in the game. Sure, it doesn't affect the gameplay, but it does significantly help with the feeling and connection of identity and charm. I miss that part about Call of Duty so much, and I will continue to yap about that until we get something like that back. As far as the rest of the multiplayer experience goes, I really did enjoy the Interstellar grind. Even though it is one of the easier challenges to complete, it was well worth it and one of the best looking mastery camos we've ever gotten. I completed it in roughly 2 weeks after the launch of the game, and I also completed the Grand Mastery grind in 3 months by the middle of February of this year. In comparison to Modern Warfare 22 last year, I had slowed down playing that multiplayer significantly once I finished that, and would really only get on to get the charms for the new weapons once they came out. That became my main grind and focus. With Modern Warfare 3, I didn't do Grand Mastery for everything, but I also didn't need to because of everything that Sledgehammer did for the multiplayer this year. They had near weekly events for rewards like camos, weapon blueprints. They had weekly challenges for brand new aftermarket parts that would change up a weapon in unique ways. I cannot reiterate enough how amazing of an idea aftermarket parts were for the game. Sure, some weren't meta shifting, but they didn't need to be. Some were pretty meta though, like the Revenger kit on the BP-50 or whatever it is on the FJX Horus. Those were pretty overpowered for a while. Some aftermarket parts brought back some iconic weapons like the Akimbo models, or even the Jack Signal Burst, which turned the G36C into the Black Ops 2 M8A1 with the 4-round burst. Even some gimmicky and fun ones like turning the Bal-27 into a 5-round laser beam. Sledgehammer wants to make Advanced Warfare 2 so badly.
What you're seeing is Advanced Warfare.
Or turning the Cat AMR into a sniper that fires literal rockets. It was incredible. Every single week, you had something new to do. Not to mention, in Season 3, they introduced the seasonal Mastery Prestige camos where earning XP would get you one trick, Obsidian, Mercury, and Constellation's End. 4 incredible camos to show your dedication to your favorite weapons. They made the Obsidian grind from Modern Warfare so much better and expanded so much more upon it. I have thoroughly enjoyed playing Modern Warfare 3's multiplayer all year long, and I think it again goes to show in saying over 150,000 kills, over 30 plus days of playtime. I uploaded 80 plus videos on this game over the year. I loved this multiplayer. On the topic of events, I loved what they did with the Vortex events. We had some beautiful and unique remakes like Scrapyard. I really loved the hellish Diablo-themed Satan's Quarry. All with some incredible game modes, like being able to run around with a ray gun in multiplayer. That was so much fun. I do wish Skid Row replaced Skid Row and MP because I think the brighter skybox just looked a lot better, but that's just me. The cel-shaded variants of maps that we had were really unique and I enjoyed them a lot. We had part 2 of the Boys event, allowing us to pick up superhero abilities. I thought the WWE crossover was so cool and genuinely a nice surprise. I would have never imagined being able to smack somebody over the head with a chair in a COD game.
I have a chair!
One of my favorite LTMs we had in the game was the arcade mode, which basically brought back COD 4 old school mode with the weapon pickups, increased health, and jump height. That was amazing. I think the best events we had were the Get High ones. We had 2 incredibly well made and fun parkour maps. The synthwave aesthetic for both of these courses were so well done, and the rewards that you got for playing them were incredible. They even gave us a completely brand new Get High 6v6 map. I don't know if it's possible, but I would love for Sledgehammer to leave a permanent playlist of both of these parkour maps in the future. I think this was one of the last things the COD community would have ever expected to have in Modern Warfare 3, but I'm genuinely so glad it was. It was such a fun break from the traditional multiplayer grind, and it's something I hope gets expanded upon in the future. One thing I do wish got expanded upon more was the war mode. Having 2 war maps was a little disheartening, especially considering war was such an amazing addition in COD World War II. I do wish instead of getting 5 shipment remakes, we got a few more remakes or remasters from some of Sledgehammer's previous games. I think a remaster from the original MW3 would have been awesome, like Arcaden or Bootleg for example. Maybe even giving us a remaster of some MW2 DLC, Bailout and Salvage I think would have been really nice. What I really would have loved to have seen are Crossfire, Countdown, Overwatch, and Liberation turned into their own own 6v6 maps. Considering they were already on the war maps, I feel like it would have been a good way to pad out a little bit more variety, and instead of just, again, getting 5 shipment remakes for Season 6, again, they were already in the game with the war maps, and it would have been cool to have seen them turned into 6v6 maps because, respectively, we haven't seen them in multiplayer in over 8 and 12 years by now in 2024. Which also, apparently, the reason as to why we didn't see many new maps for Seasons 5 and 6 of MWIII is because rumors are suggesting that Treyarch is taking maps that Sledgehammer made for post-launch Black Ops 6 content. Along with that, gunfight and ground war support being non-existent was pretty rough. I do believe the main reason we didn't see updates for these modes is because of Sledgehammer losing 30% of its studio employees due to the Microsoft layoffs at the beginning of this year. Also, around the same time, Sledgehammer closed their studio in California and were working from home during the relocation process, as reported by Eurogamer and Tom Henderson of Insider Gaming. I think it makes a lot of sense that due to those circumstances, they focus more on the core multiplayer experience. Despite that though, Sledgehammer was still able to provide the best post-launch multiplayer experience to date, with 18 brand new maps, 18 6v6 map variants, 2 remasters, 2 parkour maps, a new war and gunfight map that brought to the total of 42 post-launch maps, an average of 7 per season, almost doubling the amount of maps that we would get in traditional COD DLC packs. We can also compare the seasonal roadmaps, just look at the differences. With all of that being said, my main focus is obviously the multiplayer, and mixing every bit of the core multiplayer fundamentals along with the things like weekly events, challenges, and overall things to do in the game, it genuinely felt like Call of Duty multiplayer again. It's why I enjoyed getting on the game every single day. This was the year that Call of Duty multiplayer really tackled and broke down the question and criticism of Call of Duty's what is there to do after a certain point. There was almost always something new to do, some new goal to achieve, some new thing to unlock in the game. There was always a natural incentive to play. In short, what I loved about Modern Warfare 3's multiplayer was the fact that it actually felt like a COD multiplayer and not just an afterthought to Warzone in being a leveling simulator. I loved the feeling of this game, the sniping, the amount of content and updates there were. It felt like people actually played the multiplayer to play it, instead of only jumping into shipment and small map mosh pits for weapon leveling. There was so much to do, so much content, support, and care for the core Call of Duty experience despite the layoffs and the overall short development time with this game. Modern Warfare 3 to me felt like a solid fan service Call of Duty. We're playing on some of the best maps ever created with the Modern Warfare 2 remasters, with iconic Modern Warfare weapons, advanced warfare weapons, while using Black Ops 2 kill streaks. It was an incredible mix of new and old feelings of Call of Duty. It is arguably the best multiplayer next to Cold War in my opinion, and had the best post-launch support in the Warzone era, and it's not even a debate for me. It's not even close. I don't know if we truly grasp the new gold standard that Sledgehammer had set this year for the post-launch support of Call of Duty, especially with the live service format that Call of Duty is under now. I really do hope that Treyarch and Infinity Ward can match that going into their future games. Because the thing is, if Treyarch and Infinity Ward can compete with that, we're going to see a lot of comparisons to Sledgehammers in Modern Warfare 3 again being like, damn, they actually did a kick-ass job with live service. For this section of the video, I was originally planning on doing a deep dive into Modern Warfare 2 Remastered as we got all 16 of the original MW2 maps on launch, and yet it still begs the question of where is the real Modern Warfare 2 Remaster? I want to keep this all very brief as I have already discussed this topic endlessly on the channel in the past, but I firmly believe that Modern Warfare 3 here was the best case scenario for getting some form of Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, especially with the maps. For starters, I think it was the best case scenario because of simply how a real Modern Warfare 2 Remaster would go over nowadays. If the real one came out and they didn't patch One-Man Army noob tubes, the game would be a mess after the first day. The original Modern Warfare 2 was a product of its time, and it would not survive in this day and age of gaming. I think Activision knows that, and also not to mention, they would need to change it. There is simply no way the game would survive being a copy-paste, just like we saw with Modern Warfare Remastered back in 2016. Sure, there's plenty of ways the game could be fixed or how it could be released, but the biggest issue is this. So many people were complaining about getting the remastered maps on launch, and I believe that given the feedback, Activision is no longer going to even risk releasing the real thing, let alone any other full Call of Duty remaster. We are no longer getting the campaign early access in Black Ops 6 because of the feedback from Modern Warfare 3. If they're no longer giving us that for a campaign, the mode we usually play one time, imagine it for the mode that we play all year, the multiplayer. There is almost no shot they give us the real remaster now. Not just for Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, but any Call of Duty remaster.
Good. That's one less loose end.
Be so real with yourselves and think about this for a minute. If the feedback was so negative for the maps from one of the most popular Call of Duty games to ever exist, do you honestly think they'd be willing to risk the exact same thing with something like Black Ops 2 Remastered, for example? No, they wouldn't. Now, I'm not saying that complacency would have helped because, by all means, speak your mind. If you don't like something, you don't like it, and that's totally cool. However, we have to realize the implications of the feedback. Maybe the Call of Duty community doesn't want remasters anymore, but regardless, after the feedback from launch, I think it was potentially the final nail in the coffin for getting the real thing. It makes perfect sense why they keep remastering maps instead of the full games. It's much easier to bring back remastered content instead of risking a full-blown remaster potentially flopping for one reason or another. I really hope I'm wrong about this, because to be abundantly clear, I do want the real MW2 remastered. I do want other Call of Duties to get remastered, but I also understand why we may not get them now. I also will say this, the whole notion that, oh, the remasters are so lazy, all they do is just port the maps over, is such an egregious take. The devs did not just port the maps from IW4. They were very clearly built from the ground up. They look, feel, and play very different. My view of porting is something more like this. IW4 assets into H1. What we see here is not how it is at all in Modern Warfare 3. As another short quick note with the maps, I really did enjoy how the remasters were handled. Sledge did a great job in cleaning a lot of the maps up, especially with visibility, more notably on maps like Wasteland and Derail, for example. I enjoy how a lot of the maps look and feel. There's a couple new changes to areas to the maps which make sense given the movement mechanics. This new style of movement within the Modern Warfare 2 remasters can be both a good and a bad thing. Sure, it makes traversing a lot of the maps much easier, but it also breaks the original feel and design of the maps, which can be an issue in certain circumstances. In short, I think they were done quite well, despite the spawns on some maps, as I discussed earlier. Despite what you may think about the Modern Warfare 2 remastered maps in this game, for me personally, they're a huge part of the reason why I loved Modern Warfare 3. Using the classic weapons like the ACR, FAMAS, UMP, and Intervention on these classic maps was already the biggest selling point for me, and I absolutely loved it. It satisfied a good bit of that Modern Warfare 2 Remastered want from me, and it will be the reason why I come back to this game in the future. I really hope that Sledgehammer brings back the Best of 09 playlist as a permanent playlist in 6v6, 10v10, and as a toggleable option in Search and Destroy. Having a permanent playlist of just the 16 Modern Warfare 2 Remastered maps so players like myself who want to come back and experience them can do just that. The timing of this couldn't have been more perfect. Right as I was getting ready to render this video, Sledgehammer actually added this playlist to the game. It's currently a 6v6 playlist called Mosh Pit that has all of the typical respawn modes, and it just has the Modern Warfare 2 Remastered maps in it. This also gives me a quick moment to thank and shout out the comms team at Sledge. Sledgehammer have always been top tier with their communication with the community, and they really showed that with the care and responsiveness to feedback throughout the course of the year. Not even just on a personal level here with this Modern Warfare 2 Remastered playlist, for example, but a couple of examples even dating back to the beta of this game, like changing the XP rates in Search and Destroy to match those of the original Modern Warfare 2, showing everyone's title cards for in-game pop-ups, the details within the patch notes, Reddit AMAs, they had that interview on Repulsa's stream at the beginning of the year, all of the experimental playlists in game modes that would also change core game mechanics like the looping score streaks, and so much more. Despite whatever gets thrown at Sledge, they always do their best to give the community what we want, and I am truly thankful for the work that they did. Now that we've discussed the multiplayer, let's move on to what is widely considered one of, if not the worst campaign in the Call of Duty franchise. Modern Warfare 3's campaign received a ton of criticism, to which I do think the arguments against it are very fair. It was just too short, and it felt like there wasn't much going for it. It was a slight continuation of the new Modern Warfare storyline and finding missiles, and gas, and then missiles with gas in them. But this time we have Vladimir Makarov in the picture. The thing with some of the other weaker experiences like Vanguard and Black Ops 3 is that they're able to be swept under the rug to an extent. Vanguard had us playing as new characters in a one-off story that didn't relate to anything. Black Ops 3 was similar, yet deviated so far from the original Black Ops storyline that all we remember is
train go boom.
My problem with the Modern Warfare 3 campaign isn't that it's super short or how Vladimir Makarov looks or anything like that. My problem with it is that it feels like yet another small piece to this new Modern Warfare storyline that is going nowhere. Not only is it going nowhere, but it makes our main group of characters look
dumber than you look.
Modern Warfare 2's campaign had us chasing missiles around the world and overall was a passable story. It was mostly carried by the main characters and their personalities, personalities. One criticism that Modern Warfare 22 had was no one died, or it felt that nothing truly significant had happened. By the end of the game, it felt like a small piece to the new narrative that left us wanting more. It ended in that scene in the bar that reintroduced Makarov, and then we had that No Russian teaser which sets us up for Modern Warfare 3. The first mission begins with breaking prisoner 627 out of the gulag. Sounds familiar already. This mission was actually very well done in my opinion. A very nice infill sequence akin to The Only Easy Day Was Yesterday, and going through the gulag, rappelling down the ropes with the NVGs, we get to sell 627 and it's Vladimir Makarov. A nice nod to Captain Price being prisoner 627, and a nice twist considering Ivan and Coney Group were speaking English with an accent that you wouldn't guess is Russian.
Movement in the courtyard. Looks like a prisoner transfer.
Not okay. On me.
You successfully break Makarov out of prison and he's officially on the move again. Task Force 141 are in the back of a plane en route to some place, I guess? I don't know where we are or how we got here, where it's going. It wasn't explained. Then all of a sudden we're in Rxqe with Farah and Alex, who is now working with Graves and Shadow Company. We're ambushed and we get into our first open combat mission. So this whole sequence is already a whole lot to unpack. Makarov is out. We don't know where Task Force 141 was off to, and now we're in control with Farah, who's working with Alex, Graves, and Shadow Company. Didn't Graves die in the Modern Warfare 22 campaign? Alex is alive somehow after manually detonating Barkov's gas factory at the end of 2019's campaign, but was brought back in a cutscene for a season in Modern Warfare 2019. I don't know what the writers are doing here. It all feels like a very cheap gimmick, and that character deaths don't really matter. If you don't see a certain character die, you can never fully rule them out of being dead. I imagine this whole sequence left a lot of players confused, as we thought that we killed Graves in Modern Warfare 22, but it was explained in Modern Warfare 22 Season 5 cutscene that Graves wasn't actually in that tank.
Well, I wasn't in that tank.
And now Shadow Company and Farah's ULF forces are now working together against Makarov's led Coney Group. Captain Price and Task Force 141 were completely unaware of this until the meetup with Farah, and it's basically played off as need to know, and it's my business. It feels very disingenuous, especially considering Price and Farah's history. You would think that they would have talked about what happened, but I guess not. This is what confuses me so much. How are our characters so disconnected from what's happened? No one told Farah that Shadow Company tried to hunt and kill Task Force 141? Isn't Farah now considered a villain because she's willingly working with the antagonists of Shadow Company? I feel like Price in this moment should have realized that she's protecting with and working with the enemy, but he just says he implicitly trusts her. It's all just very confusing. I feel that the campaign should have opened in a very similar sense to that of the original Modern Warfare 3, hours after the end of the previous game. In the original Modern Warfare 2, we were stabbed by Shepard and are bleeding out. At the start of Modern Warfare 3, Price and Nikolai are rushing us to the doctor. In this case, the story should have picked up right after the bar sequence. Maybe the game could have started off with a briefing on Makarov, and then the flashback Verdansk mission to show the history between them and establish who Makarov is and what he's done in this new narrative. Then we could have established some set pieces on how we got to where we are now, and then breaking Makarov out of the prison sequence. Now, for as much as I did enjoy the sequence of Operation 627, I had no clue we were breaking Makarov out, so the story to me already started off a little confusing as to why and how he ended up in prison, because we didn't know he blew up the Verdansk Stadium at the time, nor the planning and the thought process of getting him out. We were just kind of dropped into it with no context. Again, this whole intro sequence is a lot to unpack, and it's jarring because there's no contextual direction of what's going on. In just about every single Call of Duty campaign, we have an intro as to what's going on.
Good news first, the world's in great shape. We've got a civil war in Russia, government loyalists against ultranationalist rebels, and 15,000 nukes at stake.
Just another day at the office.
We were at least given an idea as to what's being set up, the plot points. Modern Warfare 3 here, we were just dropped into the submarine and then we were in phase 1 of a mission, but we don't know what the mission is. To save a ton of time picking apart each mission, the game essentially sends us on a wild goose chase of finding missiles, getting information on Makarov, and finding Coney Group. Task Force 141 and Shadow Company end up working together to find Makarov, which is quite literally the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of moment.
Makarov. You ever hear the old saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend?
Christ, one day you're going to find that cuts both ways.
It just feels like we're again continuing the plot of Modern Warfare 22 and finding missiles. We do have the open combat missions that give some variety to the gameplay, but I do also understand why not a lot of people like them, as they felt they were like Warzone Spec Ops missions. In some cases, we literally are on the Verdansk Warzone map, forwarding Makarov's plans. Now, I want to say something that's slightly controversial here. Open combat missions are good for Call of Duty. However, the execution, depth, and missions as a whole could have and have been much better in the past. In previous Call of Duty games, there's been loads of these kind of open combat missions where you feel like you can complete complete a set of objectives in any way you see fit. The issue is, in Modern Warfare 3, they felt like little fetch quests. Go place trackers on the cargo containers, destroy the helicopters, you get the picture. Overall, I don't entirely dislike open combat missions. I think that for Call of Duty, they're actually really good alternatives instead of just a straight, linear, follow this guy and do XYZ. Now, of course, a good mix of the two would be great. I would like to see more open combat missions in the future, just executed far better and with more depth. They've been done better in previous games. A couple of examples are Desperate Measures from Black Ops Cold War, Sentinel from Advanced Warfare, Going Dark in Modern Warfare 2019, Blood and Iron from World at War, which is quite literally open combat, and also Old Wounds from Black Ops 2, the horseback mission where you have this massive area to ride around and complete objectives, find intel and caches, everything. This is the kind of style these OCM should strive for. More ways to complete the mission with more at stake rather than just, hey, go plant these trackers. I also don't dislike Makarov either. Do I think he's better than the original? No, absolutely not. But also, I suppose we haven't seen the last of him yet, so who knows what'll happen to his character in the future. I actually really enjoyed this display of him in Coney Group. A lot of people didn't seem to like him in comparison to the original Makarov, which I do completely understand. We only saw the original Makarov in crucial moments, and for good reason, because he was established as the bad guy immediately with no Russian in MW2, and as the story progressed, you felt his influence with the chaos he created. We saw him more in the original MW3 with the kidnapping of the Russian president, Yuri's flashback, and of course the end of the game. What I enjoyed about the new Makarov was the fact that he was much more actively involved with the story, which I do realize is the polar opposite of the original Makarov. We see the inner workings of Coney Group and how he leads them. The problem is though is that he's extremely predictable and cliche, like having Ivan killed because he wasted time by not trusting his plan. Ivan, you did not trust my plan. До свидания, блядь. I guess stopping for a brief moment to avoid getting shot while escaping the gulag is enough to lose your life over, but alright. Other than that, we see more of a personal feud between him and Task Force 141. Not that it didn't already become personal in the original Modern Warfare trilogy, but with Makarov actively being in the picture instead of just hiding in the shadows and being talked about, I felt it brought a more engaging dynamic and somewhat more believable take to the story. In comparison to the original Modern Warfare 2, there's the no Russian massacre, then all of a sudden Russians have invaded the United States, which at first begged the question, how did this happen? How did we get here?
How the hell did they get through?
It seemed at first there was no explanation. It didn't really seem believable. Now, of course, we know in hindsight that General Shepard betrayed us because of his involvement with the no Russian airport massacre, and the information on the DSM would have shown his involvement, and that's a key sign as to how Russia invaded the United States seemingly out of nowhere. Makarov's whole character and story of how he caused World War III by misleading the world that it was the Americans who committed the airport massacre, despite there being literal security footage evidence that it was him who did it, is a ridiculous plot hole. Despite that, it was an extremely entertaining story, but the point is, I feel that in Modern Warfare 3, having Makarov there made it more engaging and the sequence of events a little bit more believable, which I did enjoy. What I really dislike about the new Modern Warfare storyline is how it's being dragged on. As compared to the original trilogy of Modern Warfare games with COD 4, MW2, and MW3, each of those games still had their own individual stories within them, yet were still a part of an overall greater narrative. The current Modern Warfare storyline does not have that. Each game had its own complete story by itself, despite there being an ongoing one. In COD 4, we go through the story of the Russian Civil War and the threat of nuclear weapons in the Middle East, killing both of the antagonists, El Assad and Imran Zakhaev, by the end of it. In Modern Warfare 2, we're introduced to Zakhaev's successor, Vladimir Makarov, who carries out an airport massacre which leads to the invasion of the United States, ending with killing General Shepard who betrayed us. Then Modern Warfare 3 was the final chase of Makarov, despite losing everyone along the way. Soap, Sandman, Delta Force, and Yuri, we finally get our hands literally on Makarov after all the pain and chaos he brought us. Comparing the new to the old, the new storyline feels as if we're not even close to matching the level of storytelling nor progression. In the original Modern Warfare 3, Soap's death wasn't just for shock value or setting up a cliffhanger, it was a genuinely heartbreaking scene and we felt the effects of it immediately. Yet everything fell into place with it in Yuri's flashback. Every key piece to the original Modern Warfare trilogy was connected by one character coming into the picture.
Soap trusted you. I thought I could too. So why in bloody hell does Makarov know you?
Lieutenant Price, the meeting is underway. Enemy transport sighted entering the target area.
I was young and patriotic when I first met Vladimir Makarov.
Yuri, wake up. Zakhaev wouldn't want you to miss this.
Target acquired. I have a positive ID on Imran Zakhaev.
This deal will generate millions for our cause. Money can buy many things, even power. The road to our future begins here, my friend.
get down. I think I saw his arm fly off.
KF never forgot what we did for him that day. Our reward was power. But power corrupts.
Today, we show the world our true strength. Perhaps it will give you some support. Is everything ready? Do it.
Thousands of souls extinguished by the push of a button.
Everyone, hang on!
Understand, Yuri? This is only the beginning.
This wasn't war. It was madness.
I know what you have done, Yuri. I know what you have told them. My friend, my ally, my betrayer. What happens here today will change the world forever. Nothing can stop this. Not even you.
Погоди-ка курить сигарету. Сразу постарайся растянуть на несколько часов.
Remember, no rush.
Up the stairs, go.
I was a soldier of Russia, not a taker of innocent lives. But in his eyes, this marked me as the enemy. Okay, Yuri. You bought yourself some time. For now.
What I also feel is lacking in the new Modern Warfare series are the little sentimental pieces. The 1911 that Price places on Soap's body is the same one he tossed to him before shooting Zakhaev. Then Soap gave it back to Price when he rescued him from the gulag, and as a final goodbye, Price left it with Soap. The original Modern Warfare series had a clear vision and story within their own individual games, and yet still left room for more to be desired until the very end. Soap's death in the new Modern Warfare 3 was so sudden, followed by the literal end of the game. It ends on such a frustrating cliffhanger, and now we have to wait for presumably Modern Warfare 4 to continue it. These new games feel like it's just an ongoing story with no direction other than missiles and missiles with gas. What's also relatively frustrating is that Modern Warfare 3 did not continue the story through the raids or the seasonal cutscenes. At least we had an idea as to what was going on post Modern Warfare 22 last year. I'm really hoping that Modern Warfare 4 picks up the pace and really starts to put these scattered puzzle pieces together for us. Both the new Modern Warfare 2 and 3 feel like very small pieces to an incomplete and drawn out narrative. I'm just really hoping that Modern Warfare 4 puts it all together for us. Depending on the kind of zombies player you are, and especially after the last zombies experience in Call of Duty Vanguard, the initial reveal and idea of open world zombies could have gone one of a few ways. 1, being completely open to the idea. 2, it's Outbreak from Cold War. Or 3, it's not round-based. Boo, we're round-based, boo. I was personally in the camp of going into it with an open mind, as I hadn't experienced really anything at all with Outbreak and Cold War, and it was going to be a fresh experience for me personally. Zombies in Modern Warfare 3 was deemed early on as DMZombies, taking elements from the DMZ extraction mode in Modern Warfare 2 and throwing zombies into the mix of it. I do enjoy and definitely do prefer round-based zombies, and before I get my head ripped off for this, I actually did enjoy the whole open world take on zombies Zombies, just because this whole Outbreak feeling of it gives a different sense of like gameplay variety for me personally. Even though I'm not a dedicated Zombies player, I feel like I do understand where a lot of the frustrations lie within the Zombies community. As a quick backstory, I played the original Zombies from World at War to Black Ops 1 and a little bit into Black Ops 2. I stopped after the release of Die Rise. I was just not interested at that point anymore. I didn't play any Buried, any Origins, I didn't play Black Ops 3, 4, and didn't get back into Zombies until Cold War. So I missed a lot, and my view of Zombies is going to be very different compared to most, and that's okay. That's totally fine. I know that I've missed a lot. You guys know that pickaxe meme where the guy stops right before he hits the diamonds? That was me with BO2 and stopping before Buried, Origins, BO3, all that. So yes, I know, I missed out. And because I got back into round-based Zombies with Cold War, I mostly did it for the Dark Aether grind, but I just really enjoyed all the maps that we had in that game. I didn't play much Outbreak in that either, so when Modern Warfare 3 Zombies was announced as this whole like open world DMZombies kind of thing, it was interesting to me because I hadn't experienced anything like that before. I went into it with an open mind because it was something completely new to me. I mostly played for the camo grind in Borealis and Bioluminescent, in which I'll say that Borealis is genuinely one of the best mastery camo rewards we have ever gotten in Call of Duty. The challenges for completing the camo grind in Zombies were mostly straightforward. You'd go into a game and either farm zombies at the exfils or with contracts and spores, outlasts, and escorts. I do kind of wish the timer in game was a little bit longer, but even if you stayed in the game for the full hour, it roughly took the same amount of time in Cold War to get fully maxed out Pack-a-Punch and exfil at round 31 or 36 to be the most timely efficient with camo grinding, so I really didn't mind it too much. Later on into the year, I really got into chasing some of the Easter eggs and doing the story missions, like in Season 4, going through the Unstable Rift and completing all 5 phases for the Mark of the Survivor camo. For what it was worth, I really enjoyed the progression of the story missions and mixing it in with the camo grind. Truthfully, I'm not exactly sure what happened in the quote story with Zombies and how Modern Warfare is mashing in with the Black Ops story and lore. Having Ravenov is really cool. I know that Dr. Jansen is schizophrenic after being infected, I guess, with the Dark Aether entity, which I'm guessing is Sam. Having Victor Zakhaev involved in the rebooted Modern Warfare narrative in Zombies is interesting, although I'm not quite sure how he survives being thrown down that missile silo, and how he relates to the story, and yet this is where the lines can blur together and things get confusing. I've seen a lot of discussion that having campaign characters in the Zombies storyline seems off-putting. Soap is a great character and all, but having him be one of the main characters in Zombies just feels kind of odd. I guess it makes sense because the events of Modern Warfare Zombies take place before the actual campaign story of Modern Warfare 3, but that's the thing. Having campaign characters and multiplayer operators that aren't tied into the zombie story can be pretty off-putting. I think the general consensus of the matter is zombies should have their own characters, like a crew for a dedicated map, and a story interwoven between the characters and maps, told through Easter eggs, cutscenes, etc. It's not to say that it can't work having campaign characters in a canonic zombie story and lore, but to me, I think it works better in the campaign stories. Think of Imran Zakhaev, for example. He was one of the main antagonists of COD 4 and one of the main figures of the Modern Warfare storyline. However, he was brought into Black Ops Cold War, which then brought the lines together of the Modern Warfare and Black Ops stories together. So as far as the quote story goes, I completed everything up until Act 4, just not the final entity boss fight. I really did enjoy Zombies in Modern Warfare 3 from a very casual perspective. It was a solid experience for what I did within completing the story missions and camos. Even though it's not round-based for Zombies, it has its moments where it can still feel like it. Progressing through the zones, working your way, upgrading to Tier 3, the way that you can farm exfils and contracts within different tiers gave you different options of difficulty. If you wanted a harder challenge, you can go into Tier 3. But if you just wanted to relax and mindlessly grind whatever you wanted, you can do that in Tier 1. I also really did enjoy the open world aspect of it because I really like Rxqe as a map. In comparison to the Zombies experience with Vanguard before they added Shino Noma with round-based zombies, you would complete one of the few objectives in a small area of multiplayer maps over and over and over again. Contracts offer a little bit more variety than that. While it can be tedious completing the same objectives, I'm glad it was on an open world map and not just in some small confined area. I think it's a blessing and a curse that I'm very casual with zombies because I understand that the point of it is just to kill zombies and survive, so how I go about it, whether it's round-based or open world, doesn't really matter too much to me because I found ways to enjoy both styles of it. I really enjoyed the Outbreak open world style of zombies for this go around, just for variety's sake, as compared to the original round base where you're just running around in circles in a small part of a map for hours on end, but to each their own in how you enjoy zombies. I enjoy both. Like I said a little bit ago, I think I understand what the zombies fans in the community are talking about when it comes to this new style of zombies with Cold War, Vanguard, Modern Warfare 3, and now of what we know with Black Ops 6. It doesn't feel like zombies. It feels like an extension of Warzone. It has a lot to do with either the setting, where we're fighting zombies on a Warzone map, or subsections of multiplayer maps. There's also the HUD, which is the exact same from mode to mode, especially with the armor plates. It doesn't have that same feeling, especially thematically and artistically speaking, that round-based zombies has. The feeling isn't the same when you compare dropping into Rxqe for zombies and an older round-based map. When you start an older iteration of zombies, you immediately feel like you're in a zombie survival being in that kind of environment. It hasn't hit the same in a really long time. I'm really hoping for the best with Black Ops 6 in this regard. We've mostly gotten to look at Liberty Falls, and a lot of the same criticisms hold true. It doesn't look like Zombies. It looks like Warzone because it's being set on a multiplayer map, etc. I hope that with Terminus, that classic mode that was rumored, along with being able to change your HUDs to the Black Ops 3 style, and with further maps and content planned for round-based zombies, it starts to feel more like a traditional Zombies that a lot of the community has been missing and wanting to return. With the start of Modern Warfare Zombies this year, Treyarch started the development of it, but I believe had dropped support and passed it back to Sledgehammer and other supporting studios after Season 1 came out. Since then, they've been working on Black Ops 6, so I don't know how much of the story and planning was handled by Treyarch, nor how far along they got with the post-launch planning before handing it back to Sledge and others. For what it was all worth though, I had close to 6 days played in Zombies and really did enjoy my time playing it. Given the developmental time frame of Modern Warfare 3 again being rumored to have been roughly 16 months, it makes sense as to why they chose the route of DMZombies. And for what it was worth, given all of the circumstances, I think that Modern Warfare 3 Zombies was decent fun, and I really wouldn't mind seeing a continuation of this Outbreak and open world style of Zombies. I think a good mix of both round-based and Outbreak can definitely work well together, and do hope for the best that Treyarch can take good care of the zombies heading into Black Ops 6. Even though Warzone isn't a part of the paid content package for Modern Warfare 3, I still did want to talk about it for a quick moment. I'm not the biggest Warzone player, with less than 2 days played on Big Map and Resurgence. I will say though, I really did like this iteration of Warzone. I do like Rxqe as a map, and it was pretty fun for what it was worth. Although I do wish we saw some more Big Map updates, especially for the current Haunting event that's going on right now. It is a little disappointing that we didn't see a nighttime version of that, but oh well. Really enjoyed the feeling of the sniping with the CAD AMR on it, even though I feel like we really didn't need to have its velocity nerfed early on. Most important thing, that it was one-shot headshot sniping, so we're already in a much better spot without needing to rely on explosive ammo unlike last year. Speaking of that though, there was supposed to be an update to the Modern Warfare 22 snipers that would no longer require explosive rounds to one-shot to the head anymore. This was confirmed by Raven in the Season 5 creator call, but that hasn't come to fruition yet as far as I know. Unlike last year, I really didn't bother so much with rank, so I can't speak too much on that. I do think that the re-edition of Rebirth Island in Season 3 was absolutely huge for Warzone, and it again is no surprise that Verdansk is going to be coming back in the future, especially after the success of Fortnite's OG throwback season last year. When it comes to Rebirth Island, I think the changes to it are pretty neat, like how at the start of each match a new POI is destroyed, which changes up how the map plays a little, which seems pretty alright. For what it's worth, in the short amount of time that I played Warzone, I really did enjoy it. The game plays much better overall with the faster movement mechanics and one-shot sniping to the head. I wanted to discuss the base price of the game again. Whether the game was initially worth the $70 or not is up to you. At launch, the $70 got you a new campaign, a multiplayer that brought the 16 Modern Warfare 2 Remastered maps, 36 new weapons, quality of life improvements, and a new Zombies experience. I wanted to go ahead and bring up this tweet for you all. The $70 that we paid for on launch already gave us a better deal, and to expand further upon it, that's not even mentioning the seasonal content for Zombies, but on the multiplayer side of things, added 42 maps to the game that we got for free. Imagine paying the $15 map packs then, which is now $21.50, for all 6 seasons worth of content, multiplayer and zombies, you name it. That would be $129 plus the $70 price tag, bringing it to $199. To experience the 16 Modern Warfare 2 Remastered maps, along with all of the post-launch content for all modes, along with a huge chunk of the Modern Warfare 22 content for $70 is a steal in my opinion. Me, who focuses mostly on multiplayer, the Modern Warfare 2 Remastered maps were already the selling point for me. Although I do completely understand why everyone was so up in arms about it. It's in part because we shouldn't have had to go through a near 2-year cycle of Infinity Ward slowly changing Modern Warfare 2 last year, having Modern Warfare 3 come out this year, where Sledgehammer honestly killed it and gave us a lot of what we wanted and so much more. This is how it should have been all along. We should not have needed to spend $70 for this. In my honest opinion, given everything we got and experienced this year, MW3 for $70 was absolutely worth it. The whole "it's just a $70 DLC" is beyond me at this point, especially now at the end of its life cycle. Like I said at the beginning of the video, of course with the power of hindsight we can sit here and say, oh yeah, it would have been great if we had this at launch. I do think there is a much larger discussion to be had about comparing Call of Duty and really a bunch of other huge video game titles and brands now in their live service models to those of 10 years ago and beyond. Before the live service era, video games would have to be completely finished by the time they shipped, as DLCs, post-launch patches, and updates were a rarity. Every Call of Duty, mostly before Modern Warfare 2019, needed to have a solid foundation in gameplay loop that was fun and engaging to make that initial investment worth it. Nowadays, most games launch with live service in mind, and we see how games hopefully get better over time. In the case of Modern Warfare 3, that's exactly what happened. The times have changed with gaming, for better and for worse. In Modern Warfare 3's case, we really did see the best post-launch live service that would eventually make that $70 investment worth it by the end of it all. There's a lot of frustration with the current business model, and understandably so. In Call of Duty's case, the frustration that we invest $70 and have to wait to see what the game becomes by the end of its cycle. Again, this topic can be its own hour-long plus video and discussion, but given what we experienced with Modern Warfare 3, the $70 by the end of it all was a very worthy investment for what it became, in my opinion. Having over 30 days worth of playtime, hundreds, thousands of hours, the price was worth it for the entertainment it brought. At the launch of the game again, I was already sold on it for the Modern Warfare 2 Remastered maps mainly, and of course, yes, we did get a new campaign and third mode experience with zombies, but like I said earlier, imagine if the release and the post-launch content were flipped. Imagine we had the post-launch content at launch, and then the post-launch content was just the MWIII Remastered multiplayer maps. It would be called the laziest Call of Duty ever. Now, of course, this is the bad side of the Call of Duty cycle, where, once again, we have a game that's actually worth the base price of the game with all of the year's content now finished and ready within it, but yet, we're on to Black Ops 6. I truly do wish that if there were ever to be a true 2-year Call of Duty, that Modern Warfare 3 here could have been it. Modern Warfare 3 is a game I would genuinely be so stoked to have another full year's worth of content updated and added into it. It has truly been one of my favorite Call of Duties, especially for multiplayer. The best thing I experienced with my community throughout the year were the comments that I would get on YouTube and Twitch saying, "Hey, I finally checked out Modern Warfare 3 and I actually really enjoyed it. It's not bad," especially from those who I knew were hesitant to check out the game. Not only within my community, but seeing it on Twitter as well. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I knew a lot of people were not going to give this game a chance considering the experiences of Modern Warfare 22. That game unfortunately did near irreparable damage to the franchise, especially in multiplayer and Warzone. So many people didn't want to or straight up didn't bother with Modern Warfare 3 because of it. And it's a damn shame because MWIII and Sledgehammer did such a phenomenal job with the updates to the game on all fronts. Despite the layoffs, despite having to work from home while they moved studios, despite the identity crisis that this game could have had, Sledgehammer knocked it out of the park this year and set a new gold standard for live service support in Call of Duty. They managed to stop the bleeding of the player counts for the most part, and I hope that's well recognized. I get that the campaign sucked for a lot of us. I also get that Zombies was very hit or miss depending on your point of view, but when it comes to the core Call of Duty multiplayer experience, it is by far the best in the Warzone era next to Black Ops Cold War. Modern Warfare 3 was almost destined to fail, being thrown together in 16 months, and yet we genuinely had one of the greatest years for Call of Duty we have ever seen. Again, especially for post-launch support. The comparisons to the seasonal roadmaps speak volumes. As a closing note here, I firmly believe that Modern Warfare 3 is going to experience more of the typical COD cycle than any other Call of Duty. So many people are going to look back on this game years down the line and be like, damn, Modern Warfare 3 really wasn't that bad. I've already started seeing some tweets about it, but you mark my words, give it a couple of years and the COD community is going to be like, damn, we had it pretty good with Modern Warfare 3. It is such an extremely underappreciated game. This game solidified its identity to me as being the best new Modern Warfare, and it's not even close. I am truly going to miss this game, and I am so thankful for the experiences that it brought me. At the end of the day, we all can have our own opinions on the matter of whether this game is just a DLC or not. I don't care what this game was rumored to be or supposed to be. I care about what it is and what it became. It became simply the best Modern Warfare game in the Warzone era of Call of Duty, in my opinion. With that all being said, thank you so much, Sledgehammer. You all truly outdid yourselves, and you should be proud. And I really hope you guys get to make the game you truly want to make for your next release. And now with that all being said, we say goodbye to Modern Warfare 3. That's gonna wrap it up for this review. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you all think down in the comment section below. Leave a like if you all enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. It's Enraged, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care, everyone.